The Red Army rolled into battle with everything from light reconnaissance scouts to multi-turret giants designed to break through fortified lines. Soviet tank doctrine evolved rapidly under fire, from the pre-war experiments to the mass-produced workhorses that reached Berlin. This is every Soviet tank that fought in the Great Patriotic War. Starting with light tanks, the BT series dominated early Soviet armored forces. The BT-2 introduced the revolutionary Christie suspension to Soviet service in 1932. It could run on tracks or wheels, reaching incredible road speeds up to 100 kilometers per hour. The convertible system was complex and prone to breakdown. Units kept it on tracks in combat. The BT-5 followed with an improved turret, mounting a 45mm gun. It was fast and agile for reconnaissance missions. Thin armor meant it couldn't survive direct engagement with German panzers. The BT-7 became the most numerous variant with over 5,000 produced. It featured better armor and a more powerful engine. By 1941, these cavalry tanks were obsolete against modern anti-tank weapons, but they fought on until destroyed or abandoned in the opening months of Operation Barbarossa. The T-26 light tanks served as the infantry support counterpart to the cavalry BT series. Based on the British Vickers 6-ton design, it entered production in 1931. Early twin-turret versions mounted 2 machine guns. Single-turret models with a 45mm gun became standard by the mid-1930s. The T-26 performed well in the Spanish Civil War and against Finland. Against German forces in 1941, its riveted armor and slow speed made it a death trap. Crews called it a coffin on tracks when facing panzers and 37mm anti-tank guns. Over 12,000 were built, making it one of the most numerous pre-war Soviet tanks. Moving on to the T-40 series amphibious light tanks. The T-40 entered service in 1940 as a swimming reconnaissance vehicle. It featured a boat-shaped hull and rear propeller for water crossings. Armed only with machine guns, it was useless against tanks. The T-60 arrived in 1941 as an emergency simplified design. It mounted a 20mm anti-aircraft gun in a tiny one-man turret. Cheap to build with automotive parts, factories churned out thousands during the desperate winter of 1941-42. It couldn't penetrate German armor. Infantry appreciated it for suppressive fire support. The T-70 improved the concept with a 45mm gun and better armor. It used 2 gas truck engines running side by side. Crews hated the one-man turret where the commander had to load, aim, and shoot while directing the driver. By 1943, the Soviets stopped light tank production entirely to focus resources on T-34s and heavy tanks. Music. The T-34 changed everything. The T-34-76 appeared in 1940 with sloped armor that could bounce German shells, a powerful 76mm gun, and Christie suspension for high mobility. It shocked German tank crews who found their 37mm guns useless against its frontal armor. Early models suffered from poor crew visibility and a 2-man turret that overworked the commander. The diesel engine ran on cheaper fuel than German gasoline engines and was less prone to fire. Reliability problems plagued early production with clutch and transmission failures. By 1942, factories simplified production and fixed the worst issues. The T-34 became the backbone of Soviet armored forces, produced in greater numbers than any other tank in history. It wasn't the best tank in any single category. It was good enough in every category that mattered, and the Soviets could build thousands of them. The T-34-85 arrived in 1944 with a larger 3-man turret and a powerful 85mm gun. This upgrade finally gave Soviet tankers a weapon that could reliably penetrate German Panthers and Tigers from reasonable combat distances. The improved turret allowed the commander to actually command instead of serving as a loader-gunner commander. Better optics and gun sights improved accuracy. The 85mm gun used the same mount as Soviet anti-aircraft guns, simplifying logistics and training. Production ramped up so fast that T-34-85s equipped entire tank armies by the final push into Germany. It remained in production and service with Soviet allies for decades after the war, a museum piece in capability by modern standards, but a war-winning design in 1944-45. Continuing with medium tanks, the T-28 entered service in 1933 as a multi-turret breakthrough tank. It featured a main turret with a 76mm gun, plus two smaller machine gun turrets on the hull, designed to crush fortified positions with overwhelming firepower. The complex design required a crew of 6 and proved mechanically unreliable. Against Finnish bunkers in 1939-40, it performed adequately when properly supported. Against German panzers and anti-tank guns in 1941, its thin armor and height made it an easy kill. Most were lost in the first months of the war. The T-44 appeared in 1944 as a revolutionary redesign of the T-34. Engineers moved the engines sideways to create a lower hull and turret. This configuration became the template for Soviet tank design through the Cold War. The T-44 mounted the same 85mm gun as the late T-34-85, but with better armor protection. Only around 1/800 were built before the war ended. It saw limited combat service. The Soviets held it back to perfect the design for the post-war T-54. It was too late to matter in World War II, but its influence shaped Soviet armor for generations. Music, now heavy tanks. The T-35 represented pre-war gigantism at its worst. This 5-turret land battleship weighed 50 tons and required a crew of 11. It mounted one 76mm gun, two 45mm guns, and multiple machine guns. Designed for breakthrough operations, it was a maintenance nightmare. The long hull frequently threw tracks. Multiple turrets meant crew coordination was nearly impossible in combat. Only 61 were built. Most broke down or were abandoned during the retreat of 1941. A few fought at the Battle of Moscow. The design philosophy was obsolete before the war even started. The KV-1 proved that heavy armor could work when properly designed. Named after Defense Commissar Kliment Voroshilov, it entered service in 1939. It featured thick armor immune to most German anti-tank weapons in 1941-42 and mounted the same 76mm gun as the T-34. The KV-1 terrified German troops during the early war. Single tanks held up entire columns by blocking roads and shrugging off hits. It was too slow to exploit breakthroughs. The heavy weight caused constant mechanical failures. The same 76mm gun as the T-34 meant it lacked the firepower to justify its cost. Later models added applique armor that made it even slower. By 1943, the Soviets needed more firepower, not more armor. The KV-85 was a stopgap upgrade, mounting the 85mm gun in an enlarged turret. It provided heavy tank firepower until better designs were ready. Only around 140 were built. It was quickly superseded by the IS series. The KV-2 took a different approach entirely. It mounted a massive 150mm howitzer in an enormous box turret taller than a house. Designed to demolish Finnish bunkers, it was hilariously impractical. The turret could only traverse on level ground. The weight and height made it an easy target. A handful fought in 1941 with limited success. One KV-2 at WWII held up an entire German division for a full day before being destroyed. It was a propaganda victory, but a tactical dead end. And finally, the IS series. The IS-1 appeared in 1943, combining the KV chassis with an 85mm gun. It was essentially a heavier, better armored version of the T-34-85. Production was limited as designers were already working on the improved IS-2. The IS-2 became the definitive Soviet heavy tank of the war. It mounted a massive 122mm gun that could destroy any German tank with a single hit. The thick, sloped armor could withstand most German guns, except at close range. It was slow, and the 122mm gun had a low rate of fire due to two-piece ammunition. Tank crews loved it for the psychological impact on German forces. The IS-2 spearheaded the final offensives into Germany. It was dangerous, it was intimidating, and it worked. Which Soviet tank is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for the next video.